Good evening and welcome to the WDSU News Hot Seat. I'm Travers Mackel. We are definitely in the thick of the political season. We are doing hot seat debates now on the big runoff races all across the city of New Orleans. First up, a big one, District E. District E, the council person there represents all of New Orleans East and the lower Ninth Ward. The seat currently held by Democrat Cindy Nguyen. She is in the runoff with challenger, former councilman Oliver Thomas. They are both here tonight. Thank you all both for participating. Congratulations also in the primary for entering the runoff.
Thank you, Travis.
Now, thank you all both for being here. We have a lot to get to. So let's just get right to it. We always start with an opening statement. We're going to go alphabetically. Ms. Nguyen, you have 2 minutes to have an opening statement and let people know why you feel you should be elected to a second term in office.
All right. Thank you so much, Travis. So again, my name is Cindy Nguyen. I serve as the council member for District E, where family always comes first. As you guys know, 3.5 years ago, when you elected me to represent you, District E was showing no movement at all. But I got to work since day one, making sure that we're addressing the issues of quality of life for our residents, working with other partners and departments to tackle the issues of this nuisance that has been sitting for so long. You know, developing solution, putting District E on the map. I stood tall and strong for District E during the time of the pandemic and the disaster. You know, we tackle a lot of things. If many of these issues was dealt with decades ago, we would not be sitting here today, but we work hard to move District E forward. District E is getting the excitement they have never received before. I will continue to work hard, be transparent, honest, accessible, and accountable to you as the people of District E. And so again, I ask for your support. My name is Cindy Nguyen, council member for District E. My ballot number is 71.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. Mr. Thomas, you have 2 minutes also to make an opening statement.
First of all, I want to thank WDSU and the hot seat, and thank you for this very important debate we have. Congratulations and blessings to Councilmember Nguyen for making the runoff. But first and foremost, man, to thank the residents and voters of District E to win a majority of the precincts, to be from that community, and for them to bless me to be the front runner in this race, for them to have the confidence that I can mitigate some of the social ills, Travis, change some of the things that are affecting this community, take advantage of Bayou Sauvage, the largest national wildlife preserve in America, take advantage of working to make the Lower Ninth Ward a sustainable community, take advantage of the 9.5 miles of waterway, 5 miles of beach line, the 7,000 potential acres of business park, and those 50 neighborhoods and 27 subdivisions that make one of the strongest African-American municipal districts in the Gulf South, but also Travis. And we know from the Metropolitan Crime Commission that in the last 3.5 years, New Orleans East is now #1 in crime and murder. Half of the violent crimes, the murders that happen in this city happen in District E right now. You guys have done reports of the miles and miles of dumping that happened now that was mitigated at one time. And then of course, something that we're not talking about, man, but the loss of property value. Everything my family owns is in the lower 9 of New Orleans East. If you look at the last few years, the folk have lost value on their property. That investment was for generational wealth, not to lose value. And then of course, demographer Troy Blanchard with LSU, who says that the quality of life, and in many cases, the loss of middle class and upper middle class population from 2019, Travis, before COVID and before the hurricane, the exodus started then. I'm just looking forward to mitigating that, building on some of the work that was done, and coming up with the type of public policy and legislative solutions that can help us move forward.
All right, we're going to start this answer with you. 60 seconds here, Mr. Thomas. We're going to start with you. We're going to go with economic development. It's made huge headlines. The Six Flags site has been turned over by the Cantrell administration to a developer. If you're elected to office in 60 seconds, how do you make sure that plan, which looks good on paper, becomes reality?
Well, the first thing you have to do is make sure that the developer gets control of the site. That hasn't happened yet. What percentage of the money is the city going to underwrite in terms of being a partner? How much federal funds are out there? And then one of the partners with the Bayou Phoenix team is Hillwood, which is owned by Ross Perot's son. At what level do they come up to make sure that the investment happens? Travis, how many plans have we had for Six Flags in the last few years? So
lot.
we have another plan and another award, but I have the expertise and the relationship with the business community. And guess what? Many of the members of the Bayou Phoenix team, they're supporting me because of my experience, my ability to understand the budgeting, and my ability to go to Washington and investors to make sure it happens. We have to make sure that this piece is not just another press conference. We've been to too many press conferences where nothing actually happens at the press conference. And the other thing is, start working on it immediately. We had so many things that were announced in election year 4 that should have been cut ribbons in year 4, not started working on.
All right, Councilmember Wynn, if you're reelected, how do you turn that plan into reality? And in essence, how do you make sure it's not just talk? How do you make sure it's action? You have 60 seconds as well for that question about the Six Flags site.
Sure, Travis. I live down the street from the site, so I've heard all those promises made in the past. As the council member, I have worked really hard to make sure that that process moved forward. We were very intentional to make sure that the zoning for a family entertainment center was restored back into that permitted use was taken out after the CZO was updated. And so I've been forefront about making sure that the needs of our community will go forward. I've been working very closely with Bayou Phoenix. We make sure that the community had a voice at the table as we dealt with the process. The pandemic did set us behind, but we are going to look at the surrounding partnership. We want to make sure, and I'm committed to that Bayou Phoenix deliver what they said that they're going to deliver to the community, coming in with partnership, looking at TIF, looking at other incentive to engage them in the process. I want to see this project come to reality for the people in our district.
All right, we're going to start this question off with you. Both of you brought it up in your opening statements. Crime, not just in the city of New Orleans, but in District E, in the 9th Ward, and in New Orleans East. Ms. Wynn, we're going to start with you here. You have 60 seconds. New Orleans is getting more federal money than any other state under this plan. It was announced yesterday. They want to hire at least 30 cops. How do you make sure in New Orleans East, and that part of the city has been plagued by not enough cops for probably 20 years. If you're reelected, Ms. Wynn, in 60 seconds, how do you make sure New Orleans East and the Lower Ninth have enough police presence in that part of the city?
Well, first of all, there's several things that we have to do, and we're working on it. We got to make sure that the 5th, particularly the 7th, it's a little bit smaller. They're covering too large of an area. We need to kind of have a balance based on population and actual police officer. We need to beef up on recruitment. Recently, we just passed a funding to provide promotion to over 25 officers. We got to incentivize and sustain our workforce. And we need to make sure that we're very effective and including the best of the best. The New Orleans Police Department works really hard to make sure that public safety play a major role in our community. We're investing into the tools. That way, the men and women that are coming to work every morning to serve our community have the resources. So when they come to work, they're able to go home to their families safely as well.
All right, Mr. Thomas, same question, 60 seconds. If elected, how do you make sure New Orleans East and the 9th Ward have enough cops on the streets to patrol?
It's simple. Let's go back to the substation in the Lower 9th Ward, Travis, like we used to have. Let's take a look at some 21st century policing and dividing up that district that has the largest landmass of any municipal district in the Gulf South. So many people have adopted my plan of landmass times calls for service times population times crime. Why not, while we're trying to rebuild our police department, Travis, you remember, go back to those cooperative endeavor agreements you used to have with the sheriff, with the harbor police, with the levee police, with special task forces that add to the manpower. But here's a basic question. If we increase the police department budget and it's more than it is now when it had more officers, then to me, I would have asked that question, why? Why is the budget growing and the resources to combat crime, why do we have less of them right now? As well as taking maybe part of the federal appropriation to make sure that we're doing some of the things to help mitigate crime, conflict resolution task force, working out our middle school. I met with 2 principals over the last week to start conflict resolution task force in their schools.
All right, we're going to start this question with you. I'm going to go quicker questions here. I'm probably asking my questions are too long. I drove to Jackson Barracks for something the other day. And if you go down St. Claude Avenue, it's closed business, closed business, closed business, closed business. It breaks your heart to see something like that. What is your plan, Mr. Thomas, in 60 seconds for economic development for that part, St. Claude to Claiborne Avenue of the lower Ninth Ward?
Travis, the community has already started. Did you know that they were just awarded the Main Street concept? Of course, we know the Main Street concept that started with Al Gore and Bill Clinton was used all over the country. Let's build on that award. Let's leverage the funds with opportunity zones and investors. Let's make sure something really happens in the Holy Cross District. Let's work with Sankofa, the Lower Ninth Ward Economic Development Committee, I was one of the consultants, of course, free of charge to help Reverend Calhoun establish that, worked on the charrette years ago. And let's do what we did uptown. Tax incremental financing districts, TIFs, why not take a look at that? Programs for tax credit, but how about 21st century zoning that tracks the growth of economic development in town centers? The town center concept can work in Lower 9 as well as New Orleans East. There's nothing new under the sun if we're familiar with it, if we're willing to do the work with the partnership with the community that could change that. But let's invest and incentivize that growth. Kudos to the Lower Ninth Ward for getting that Main Street designation. Kudos.
Councilwoman Wynn, same question in 60 seconds. What is your plan for economic growth if reelected for that corridor from St. Claude to Claiborne Avenue right by the St. Bernard Parish line?
So many of the things that was just shared, I've already done it. So when I came in, we recognized that economic growth wasn't there. We looked at the zoning, we looked at the permitted use. We've already passed tax amendment to relax many of the zoning off of St. Claude. I was part of the team providing letter of support, working with Sankofa to bring the Main Street project to the St. Claude area and have been very engaged in community meetings, working with many of our small business owners, understanding their needs. And as we work toward bringing Main Street to realities, Opportunity Zone is one that when I first got into office, worked with the governor to make sure St. Claude, the Lower 9, the East, many areas of the East to be part of the Opportunity Zone. We're working with NOLA BA because Opportunity Zone is a layer. It is no funding attached to it. We have to go out and find investor to invest into the Opportunity Zone. So many of our projects can actually tap into that resources.
All right, in 30 seconds, we're going to ask you all a pointed question. We asked you this during the first debate. We'll start with you for this one, Ms. Wynn. Ms. Wynn, you made some comments about a year and a half ago that a lot of African Americans thought were disparaging towards them. Would you like to clarify that? And how do you feel about people being offended by comments you made about 2 years, year and a half or so ago?
Thank you, Travis. Again, those words were taken out of context. That is not my character. Ever since I've been in office, I have demonstrated a very cross-diverse, working with many community, addressing healthy eating in both the Lower 9 and in the East. We started working on making many of our zoning to where people can actually grow their food. And how do we attract fresh food into both the L9, in the Lower 9 as well as in the East? I brought in St. Claude Fresh Market, so in that way families could have access to nutritional food. And that's something that I will continue to do.
All right, Mr. Thomas, you've been open about your past, pleading guilty to bribery-related charges more than 15 years ago. If elected in 30 seconds, how do voters know that things like that are behind you?
Man, my faith and my commitment to doing the right thing has really played a major role in my life. And just like I have forgiven Councilmember Wynn for comments, whether it was CPT time or greasy fried chicken, I don't think we should hold that against her. We have to move on. I think the voters showed in the first primary that they've moved on. And I'm looking forward, man, to this chance, man. I am so honored and humbled that people have thought enough of me or enough of second chances to give this Black man, this young man from that community, man, an opportunity not only to change his life, but to even do better in this part of his life. It's time to move forward. I'm ready to be the best version of me that I can ever be to help the district I come from.
All right, we don't want to run out of time because we do want to give you all a chance to make about a minute closing statement. 30 seconds, Mr. Thomas. We're going to start this with you. Let's talk quality of life issues. I'm talking Entergy and power when storms hit, as well as garbage pickup. In 30 seconds, what is your plan to make sure people in District D have a better quality of life if you're elected?
Well, first of all, had I been elected already, we would not have been last in pickup after Hurricane Ida, and we would not have been last in pickup after they made the emergency preparation. I knew enough about the system that the council could have gotten together with 5 votes, in spite of the mayor, or in spite of the budget, to do an emergency appropriation or to have emergency contracts actually before the weather event actually happen. We're going to get together, work with the mayor, work with my colleagues, man, as a unit to make sure that essential services are not taken away from our citizens. They pay for that already. And Entergy, when Entergy was given the right to build that $270 million power generation plant, let's use a percentage of their earnings to mitigate any costs passed on to the people who paid for them to build it.
All right, Ms. Nguyen, if reelected, what is your plan to make sure that quality of life issues are better for people in District E? We're talking garbage pickup. We're talking power restored after natural disasters. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Travis. And again, since day one, focusing on the quality of life for our citizens has always been a priority for me. Under my leadership, after Hurricane Ida, the East was the first to get power. You know, as it relates to trash service, I continue to work with the council, with the mayor, as well as with Metro, to make sure that the quality of life for our families are always a focus on a day-to-day basis. Not a single day that goes by that the quality of life for our citizens is on standby for me. And I will continue and faithful and committed to make sure that we continue to focus on that.
Really quickly, my colleague Sherman DeSalle did a pretty good story 2 weeks ago on wild boars roaming a part of New Orleans East. In about 20 seconds, Ms. Nguyen, what is your plan to address that nuisance issue in New Orleans East?
You know, of course, Travis, you know that we live, we're in their environment as well. And so we know that we've been working with the wildlife and fishery to tackle those issues. I'm committed to make sure to have an understanding and coming up with a solution on how do we tackle that issue. But we are sharing the same environment with the boars.
All right, Mr. Thomas, 20 seconds. What is your plan for dealing with wild boars in that neighborhood out in New Orleans East?
Wild boars, feral cats, stray dogs. My goodness. And I thought I even saw a few urban zombies running around District E in the lower Ninth Ward, working with code enforcement, man. Working with the Animal Control Board, just making sure that they're doing their job. Look, that's follow-up, code enforcement, making sure that that agency is taking care of its business.
All right. I wish we had more time. We don't. We're going to end with 1 minute, 60 seconds to make a closing statement. Election day is December 11th. We'll start with you, Mr. Thomas. Ms. Nguyen, since you're the incumbent, you'll have the final word. So, Mr. Thomas, you have 60 seconds to make a closing statement.
Once again, I want to thank the residents of District E, from the lower Ninth Ward to Fort Pike, to many of the subdivisions, man, and the early settlers who invested in that community. The 1979 article in Times-Picayune, man, New Orleans East, Blacks on the Move. I still want to be that community. As a kid, taking a trip from the lower Nine to New Orleans East by my Uncle Richard English's house, my Auntie Geraldine Brucey, man, that was a trip. My family could never afford to go on vacation, man, but we could always afford to get in that car and ride through our community with a lot of pride. Travis Metropolitan Crime Commission, in their report last year, New Orleans East #1 in crime and murder. The Quality of Life Index, dumping and abandoned properties, now #1 in New Orleans East. It was not #1 4 years ago. You can go back and review those old reports. Being threatened by essential services right now. If you look at the history of the communities, when public safety and essential services are threatened, usually that leads to the deaths of a civilization, man. I'm Oliver Thomas, number 72. I'm from the lower Nine. And guess what, Travis? 7 + 2 is 9. God doesn't make any mistakes, man. Let's get this done. Let's help save and move this community forward.
All right. Mr. Thomas, thank you. Ms. Nguyen, you have 60 seconds to make a closing argument why you feel you should be reelected for District E.
Thank you, Travis. Again, my name is Cindy Nguyen. 3.5 years ago, you elected me to represent the district with honesty, accessibility, accountability, and transparency. And I delivered those promises. I promised to work on the Lincoln Beach, the former Six Flags site, remove blighted commercial property. I delivered that. I promised to end Family Dollar Tree that was saturating it. I stopped that. Revitalization of District E came under my administration. Many of the issues that we're facing today could have been resolved if previous leaders would have taken the action to make sure that District E is not forgotten. We took the course, and we're going to continue to focus on the issue. I promise to continue to work hard for you as your council member. I've been a person to deliver my promises, and I will continue to do that as your council member. Again, Cindy Nguyen, council member for District E, number 71.
Both of you came in at exactly 60 seconds. Good job. Congratulations. Oliver Thomas, Cindy Nguyen, District E will be lucky to have either one of you all. You both know the issues, but it's voters that will decide coming up on December 11th. That's all we have for this hot seat. You can see this entire segment online starting on Monday. I'm Travers Mackel. Thanks for watching.
All right, one more look at this forecast before we go.
It was warm today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at this actually. High temperature, 79 degrees out there. 9 degrees above average, almost 10 degrees warmer than what's normal for this time of year. No, we did not make it to the record. Thank goodness, right? A lot of you wanting that cooler weather. Well, it's on the way.